Hello, guys. My name is Ndatu, and welcome to my podcast, Self Rebellion. This feels so strange to say, which on its own is strange because I've been sharing about my personal life publicly for a number of years now. But somehow I have such imposter syndrome when it comes to this podcast. I shared a screenshot with a friend of mine as soon as I finished publishing it because I was so excited. And shame, she put me on the spot. She like posted it on Instagram and tagged me, and I had no choice but to move forward after that. And so many people jumped on it, to which I am very grateful. I think I have some of the most supportive friends and followers on Instagram, and I don't take that lightly. But I was feeling so anxious, all this attention. Somehow this seems like a bigger deal than when I overshare on TikTok or on Instagram as per usual, And a part of it is because, I am aware that there's so many podcasts that already exist. What makes mine so special, And just because a handful of my friends have said, oh, you should definitely start a podcast, doesn't necessarily mean that I should or that mine is going to be successful. And I really do want to reframe my thinking around this as not a side project that I'm hoping will be so successful one day, like Steven or, Oprah Winfrey or whatever. And it got me thinking as well about when I first thought that success for me was possible. And that's when my sister, I like to say my cousin sister, but she would correct me every time, and anyone who dares call us cousins. When Lwandle would say, I learned about Lwandle getting into Wits, which is a big university in South Africa. And anyone who comes from where I come from, that's a big deal. Some of the people don't even know about what Wits is. But suddenly someone who comes from my bloodline, got into this university, and she was working towards this big job, which never even seemed possible to me. And for the first time, I could conceive the idea of success being possible for me, someone who grew up in the rural areas, was still in a township environment where the best shot we had was being a nurse, or working at a grocery store somewhere. And I remember when I got into Wits years later, after I'd initially encountered Lwandle or even heard about her actually, my mom had taken me to do my hair, and I was in matric at the time. And the ladies were talking about what I was going to do now that I'd finished matric. And there was an opportunity for me to go into nursing, and they were going to pay a stipend of 3,500 rand. Mind you, this is a big deal. To be able to earn I was 17 at the time, I just turned 17, going into 18. Coming from an impoverished background, this seemed like a way out, And I also had the other chance to go to a university. I was still waiting, actually, to hear back from Wits at the time. Hadn't heard anything. Others had gotten the provisional acceptances, and I hadn't gotten the letter. So I told them, I want to go to university. And they looked at me like I was mad. They were trying to convince my mom that I should pursue this nursing route. And it's not that there's anything wrong with nursing, but long term, it didn't present the kind of opportunities that I desired. I didn't even have an idea of what I wanted to do at the time. But of course, I'd applied, and I was like, okay, let me just see what is there on offer. Let me be in this institution and focus on learning and exploring what's possible. But because we come from such a limited background in terms of exposure and access, there aren't a lot of opportunities. Anyway, this is a very long-winded way of saying, because of my encounter with my sister Lwandle, I could conceive the idea of success, even though we'd grown up with the Oprah Winfreys of this world and the so's and so's. All those people seemed so far removed from me. They were so unimaginable, in my small world. They just seemed impractical, almost dreamy, like fantasies, if you will. But suddenly, here's someone who shared some of the life experiences that I've had, and if she could do it, then I could do it too. And the idea of my podcast is that I inspire just a handful of people who may relate to my stories but have never really had the words to articulate their thoughts and feelings. And guys, I recognize that words are so powerful. They're so important because being able to name a feeling, an experience is so liberating. Sometimes things happen and you trivialize the impact because you just simply don't have the words for them. And therefore you can't really acknowledge their impact or how much they've affected you. So I hope through Soft Rebellion, you find familiarity, or resonance, or you're able to identify parts of you which you haven't yet reconciled, and to know that, hey, it is absolutely okay, and to know that you're not alone. I mean, I felt different. I spoke about this briefly in the introduction. I felt so different from everyone around me. I felt different from my siblings, cousins, and everyone I grew up with for various reasons. I mean, there were other substantial reasons for why I felt different. But I remember even as I moved around, I just always felt like an anomaly. And sometimes that makes you stand out, not in positive ways. People pick on you because you're different or because you're lacking in some way or the other. And I always just thought I was different and I didn't belong in the world. It was only after sharing my life experiences, on Instagram, on TikTok, that I found other like-minded people. And suddenly I realized, oh my goodness, I wasn't a plague. There's nothing wrong with me. I just hadn't gotten to mingle with people who think the same way that I do, who feel the same things that I do, who've gone through similar things that I've done. So at the very least, I do hope that Soft Rebellions becomes that space where you find like-minded people, or even if your experiences are different, but you know that different is okay, different is more than acceptable, and that you aren't a plague or something to be done away with, and that you matter, your story matters in whatever place you're in, Yeah, that's the thought I had today, and I hope it does something. But anyway, I suppose this is my rebellion then against this imposter syndrome, because there's absolutely no way to feel like an imposter, I've got a voice, I've got things to say, and they really do matter. From conversations I've had as well with some of my followers on Instagram, people in my life, these conversations do matter, and I'm done feeling like I'm not the right person to do it, and yeah, if the next person wants to start a podcast, why not? We should all have podcasts. Okay, maybe not. There's some people who just say the most bizarre things, and I'm like, oh my goodness, was that really necessary? But I really do think that, if you've got something to say it. It doesn't necessarily have to be popular or win you friends or following, whatever the case is. But if it really matters, then it's going to resonate. And that's what I hope to achieve through Soft Rebellion. Okay, thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.